one. If not, questions, members? Question for Department of Health? We've been hearing a lot about the widespread availability in retail stores of hemp-derived high THC products that are mislabeled. You know, the label says low THC content, but the actual testing of it shows very high THC content. Some of them show evidence in the analysis that these are probably hemp flowers without THC that have had synthetic THC sprayed on it. We understand that it's difficult to enforce against those. Could you briefly explain why is it difficult to enforce against these? You don't have the power to seize them. Could you talk to me about that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a good question. It's layered, it's nuanced.
That's why you're smart, and you know how to explain it. If you could explain it to us. Now I'm pointing to you, sir. If you could explain it to us, that'd be helpful.
I'll do my best, certainly. The first part of your question about like whether it's low or high, it's relative. So 0.3% THC is that federal line in the sand, but 0.3% of what? 0.3% is usually, sounds like a small number, but it's all relative to something. And that what's relative is the weight of the product. So now when the weight of the product starts to get larger, more dense, more heavier than certainly hemp flower, which is very airy, dried out, excuse me, material, that's where that 0.3% turned into milligrams of something like a weighty gummy, a chocolate bar, a dense, a beverage, something that has a lot of mass to it. That 0.3% can equate to a THC amount in milligrams that is significant and is no longer just something that is just small. It's all relative to then what that THC could potentially do if you consume that serving or the whole container of it. So hopefully that provides some information about that 0.3%, okay. And then whether that means it's low or high. You need to look at the milligrams of THC, and that product can still be under 0.3% and still be legal hemp, but still have a significant amount of THC, which is why our rules recently were amended to try to bring that milligram level down into something that is non-intoxicating or less intoxicating potential. Okay. The second part of your question was about the flower. And certainly that is a concern, but absolutely that, it could be adulterated with anything, whether it's just THCA being sprayed on it or spice or some other, adulterants. Currently, hemp flower is not allowed to be sold directly to the public. So just on the form alone, regardless of how much THCA is in it, how much other things may have been sprayed on it, just on the form alone, it's prohibited under DOH.
So what can be done? I mean, I hear about this from people saying it's readily available in Waikiki and a whole bunch of places, dozens and dozens of retail outlets on Oahu.
I hear it too.
So what do you have the enforcement authority to do something about that?
Administratively, however, there is shared responsibility from a law enforcement standpoint where the flower, and again, I don't want to stray out of my lane here. With DOH, we have an administrative authority to either assess fines or embargo product, but the flower is also illegal under criminal code. And so there's some jurisdictional
Sure, you can't speak to that part of it. That's not your kuleana. But if hemp flower is being sold, you're saying that it is prohibited. You said you can embargo it. Does that mean seizing it?
No, thank you for that. It's not a seizure. It means that it's a hold in place where the department comes in, identifies, alleges what the violation is, catalogs, numerically identifies how much product is there, boxes it up, tapes it up, puts an embargo sticker on it, and says you can't sell it, you can't move it, you can't return it, you can't take it off the premises until we get back to you with further information. Basically, it's a hold.
So you box it up, tape it up, mark it, and give it back to the shop owner and say, store this?
Well, yes. I mean, in essence, yeah, but usually we find a place in a storeroom. It's not like on the retail shelves. It's all enclosed up, and we'll take photographs and identify it all.
Has there been any successful enforcement action taken so far, to your knowledge, by your office against folks who are doing this?
Yes, there was an embargo action 2021, rather large, one operator operating 2 facilities, where but I would say a large number of product was ultimately embargoed. That product ultimately was turned over under order to law enforcement.
Okay. I keep hearing about the proliferation of retail shops that are selling these high THC hemp-derived products, including flower. Everyone's wondering why we aren't seeing enforcement actions against them. I'm sure you're hearing the same thing. So, you know, people are frustrated and they're looking to the legislature to do things, and I'm just taking the opportunity to ask you about it.
No, absolutely. We do appreciate the questions. We do understand that. We do have some more work to do with law enforcement to find out where those bright lines are and where their jurisdiction ends and ours begins and vice
Yeah.
versa.
And please talk to us if you do need some changes in the statutory authority, whatever, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Chair,
you.
can I have a follow-up question?
Yes, certainly.
Just
Representative Bellotti.
Thank you. Just in those instances where you did have an enforcement, what was the law enforcement agency that you worked with?
Narcotic Enforcement Division.
Federal or state?
State, yeah, state. Then it was DPS, but now it would be DLE.
Okay, so state DLE has experience with this, and say we were to recognize and identify a number of shops that have flower or what appears to be flower, could that be reported to the Department of Health then?
That information can certainly be, reported to us, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, certainly, certainly.